Patrick used to be one of the best characters of the entire show. What changed? Well, let's look through milestones and phases of each part of the show to figure out when Patrick turned for the worse. So for example, the first phase is Season 1. In this phase, Patrick is a supportive and good friend who helps SpongeBob like anyone else. Some examples are in the episode Help Wanted, when he encouraged SpongeBob to go for the fry cook position in the Krusty Krab when SpongeBob started chickening out. He also gave SpongeBob some advice when first meeting Sandy in Tree at the Tree Dome. Another positive example of Patrick's help is when he tries to help SpongeBob pass the boating test in boating school. However, just because Patrick was a supportive character during the time doesn't mean he didn't have his stupid moments. In Hall Monitor, he doesn't realize SpongeBob is the maniac. There's also many examples in the season where both of them act like complete idiots, like in Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost. But we're mainly looking for Patrick to be stupid, like in Hooky, where he convinces SpongeBob to play hooky with him. Overall, during this phase, he was supportive but also stupid. He did dumb things like in Suds, but whenever he did something stupid, he didn't mean any harm. He was always trying to help. He was a good friend. At this point, his character was one you could cheer on, and he was very likable. Phase 2, smart but stupid. And you're gonna hear that a lot more. In the second phase, Patrick embraces his more stupid side. In general, he just becomes overall more stupid, but he also becomes kind of smart. Some of his more stupider moments are shown in Big Pink Loser, where he can't even open a jar. He also acts stupid in Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 3 during the famous wallet scene. Some of his more smarter moments appear in the secret box, where he hides a secret picture of SpongeBob from him. That's kinda smart. We also see him scheming in I'm Wood Stupid, where he convinces his parents that SpongeBob is the dumb one. As we see, he's clearly smart but also stupid. His character doesn't really change that much at all. However, he's still a very supportive character, and he has episodes like Something Smells, Grandma's Kisses, or Patty Hype. Because of this, there's really no big shift in his character. However, a new aspect of his character is revealed, his selfishness, which we see more of in the future. Some examples in this phase from Season 2 and 3 are in Dumped, I'm With Stupid, and New Student Starfish, at least for a little bit of that episode. Now the third phase is just one single episode, Patrick SmartyPants. It's an interesting concept. What if Patrick became the smartest fish ever? The reason this counts as a phase is because everything goes back to normal by the end of the episode. However, there is character development because Patrick tries to become stupid again so he can be friends with SpongeBob instead of being rude to him. During this time, as I mentioned, Patrick became the smartest fish in the entire town, to the point where his genius made it so that he couldn't maintain a relationship with anyone. Not Sandy, Plankton, or Squidward, and especially not SpongeBob. The main shift in his character here is shown when he willingly gives up his smartness, his brains, to keep his friendship with SpongeBob. Just because he has a new brain doesn't mean that he forgot any of his old memories, as shown by what he's saying. Because of this, when he makes the decision to leave his smartness to pursue friendship, it comes from Patrick, not from his new brain. And that shows that he truly cares and respects his friendship with SpongeBob, no matter how he's acted in the past. And this is a really big phase, because Patrick as a character grows here. We see his more nice side come out instead of his previously mentioned selfish side. In phase 4, he acts a little too much like SpongeBob. This phase is similar to a smart but stupid phase, and we'll see a ton of this up until season 9. The only difference is the character development and him acting more like SpongeBob in terms of how smart he is. The main difference is that this phase is very short, lasting only 14 episodes. Some of his stupider moments come in Krusty Towers, when he buys a room to eat a Krabby Patty. Remember, he lives 400 yards from the Krusty Towers. However, he had one of his smartest moments in Squidastic Voyage. He comes up with a plan to escape Squidward's body after everyone else is panicking.
We could filter the CO2 through our ballast tanks, refire the engines, and ride the shockwave out of here.
He also uses big words, which only supports that he's kinda smart. He even has some supportive moments like in Chimps Ahoy and in Wishing Well. In Chimps Ahoy, he tries to build a cool invention so that the chimps don't kick out Sandy and force her to leave Bikini Bottom. In Wishing Well, he tries to help SpongeBob look for the magic well. Now, this is a very short phase, so there's really nothing selfish about Patrick, but overall as a character, he did grow very much. In this phase, he kind of turns back to his ordinary self, before he became smart in Patrick SmartyPants. He's smart sometimes, but he's usually stupid, and he still remains somewhat of a supportive friend, not only to SpongeBob this time, but also to Sandy. This shows that there's no real character development besides maybe not being selfish, which is a good thing. However, while we didn't see any of his selfish moments in this phase, that doesn't mean that Patrick is magically improved as a character. Remember, this guy is still pretty selfish, and we're just about to see that. Phase 5 says it all, the jerk phase. This phase only contains 3 episodes, but it might be the most selfish phase Patrick has ever gone through. The episodes in question are Driven to Tears, Rule of Thumb, and Born to be Wild. In Driven to Tears, Patrick gets his license on his first attempt after SpongeBob fails yet again. I made a video on this. I have no clue how Patrick passed, but if you watch the video, you might find out. So go watch it. After winning a boat for being the 2 millionth person, he started acting more like a jerk to SpongeBob. He believes that just because he passed the boating test, he's somehow magically smarter and superior to SpongeBob. He acts like a jerk right up until the end of the episode where SpongeBob goes to jail on his behalf. Even after he tries to be nice, SpongeBob still has to take the time for him. He still has to go to jail for him. He's selfish and he acts like a jerk during the entire episode. He also believes that SpongeBob is jealous of him, which is kinda true. This makes up for his lack of selfishness in the previous phase, but is nowhere near the end of it. Rule of Thumb might be the worst Patrick episode ever, because he acts really stupid in the beginning when he tries to eat a crown. Come on, dude. However, after learning that he's now magically the king of Bikini Bottom, he starts to use his powers for evil, such as eating at the Krusty Krab for free, stealing candies from babies, and stealing comic books from collectors. He even tears down Squidward's house for his personal use. This episode even addresses Patrick's change in behavior and shows what he's become. The only good thing to take out of this is that Patrick is genuinely disgusted by what he becomes. That's the only good thing. In Born to be Wild, Patrick lowers down the jerkness because he doesn't actually do anything bad, and so maybe he's kind of going back to normal. However, his stupidity is influenced by SpongeBob, so technically Patrick wasn't the idiot, but he still chose to believe SpongeBob, which is kinda stupid. Patrick's character development in Driven to Tears is next to none. He is the antagonist right up until the end of the episode. He even lets SpongeBob take the fall and go to jail for a few months on his behalf. While he enjoys his freedom, SpongeBob is stuck in jail. The only real character development we see in this entire episode is that Patrick becomes more selfish than in Phase 2 when his selfish behavior was first introduced. Then in Rule of Thumb, we see more character development on Patrick's part. While we do see some of the worst we've seen of Patrick in this episode, after all the bad things he's done, he decides to give up the crown and go back to his old life. As I mentioned, he was disgusted by the person he became and he wanted to become nice again. The main character development part is when he gives up his royalty status to return to his normal life, which can be hard for anyone. Kinda like how he does it in Patrick's SmartyPants. Finally, Born to be Wild, we don't see much character development, but compared to the previous 2 episodes, Patrick overall becomes a better person, just embraces his stupid side. That's the only major thing. Now in Phase 6, as I mentioned, we're going back to the norm. He's starting to act like SpongeBob again, smart but stupid. Now every time this phase shows up, we're gonna do 4 things. We're gonna talk about Patrick's smart moments, Patrick's stupid moments, Patrick's selfish moments, and Patrick's supportive moments. Now this is a really short phase, only 5 episodes long, and it isn't even worth mentioning, so I'll just mention some of the notable things Patrick did. In this episode, Patrick makes a new net for SpongeBob after he loses Old Reliable. In return, SpongeBob accuses him of stealing his net, and Patrick is so offended that he decides to move. The main character growth here is that Patrick is once again a supportive friend who stands his own ground when things happen like fights. Also, in the gift of gum, he gives Patrick a big gumball as a gift on Best Friends Day. He also frees SpongeBob, Sandy, and Squidward by eating the same gumball. The main character development in this episode is Patrick strengthening his relationships with his friends like SpongeBob, Squidward, and Sandy. Overall, in this phase, Patrick still shows his more positive qualities and still appears as a more protagonistic character, who the audience can still kind of root for. Sure, he has his fair share of negative spotlights, but when he does something good, he really means it, which is always a good sign. Now I think I've named Phase 7 very accordingly. Can he get any stupider? Arguably one of Patrick's most stupid moments is seen in the episode Rise and Shine, which a lot of people haven't actually seen because it's like a 3-minute short. Now in this episode, it's just Patrick, alone in his morning routine, his natural habitat. There aren't enough words to describe how stupid Patrick has become in this one specific episode, but I'll try to sum it up as best as I can. So to start off, he doesn't recognize the sound coming from his alarm clock and thinks it's the lamp, which he then proceeds to attack. Even when the alarm looks him straight in the face, he can't tell where the ringing is coming from. Then when he goes for breakfast, he doesn't understand the concept of canned food, which is the only thing in his fridge, and then he can't open it, kinda like the jar in Big Pink Loser. As he throws the can out of anger, the ringing stops and the can opens. But there's more, and it's really not even worth mentioning. To wrap this all up, all we need to remember is that this is his daily routine.
Hey Patrick, how was your morning?
Usual.
This phase is really to show how stupid Patrick can really be and how he's become this stupid guy who honestly doesn't know anything. You can see comparisons from season 1 to see how stupid he truly has become. However, Patrick's stupidity has still remained tame to an extent and is still kind of funny to the character, so it doesn't hurt the character overall too much. Now we're gonna get to something I call the interphase analysis. Call this like the halfway point of the video. So in the interface analysis, we're going to see how the character has developed so far, and so we can try to recount when the character changed for the worse. It will be easier so we can split the phases into 2. So in season 1, we see that Patrick is a supportive and loyal friend who respects his friendship with SpongeBob. He's not entirely stupid, but he does dumb things. Overall, this sets up a good start for the character. He's very likable, and any episode he leads won't necessarily flop. A key change to highlight between phase 1 and phase 2 is that Patrick embraces his stupid side a bit more. He has his dumb moments, but he's still a supportive and loyal friend. However, that's not the biggest change in his character, because between phase 1 and phase 2, we also see a new aspect of Patrick we never saw before, his selfish side. Right now, it's tame, and it doesn't outright make him a bad character, but it shows that he has the capabilities to be an antagonist. Phase 2 takes place around season 2 and 3, and a little bit in the start of season 4, where we eventually get to the episode Patrick SmartyPants, where the third phase begins. The real only highlight in this phase is that Patrick shows his loyalty to his friendship to SpongeBob when he ditches his brain to remain with his best friend. This is the best redeeming quality and can somewhat make up for his new, more selfish character. Phase 4 is a lot like phase 2, and the only real character development it shows is that there's no character development within Patrick, as he continues to have his smart but stupid and supportive and selfish moments. However, the 5th phase shows that Patrick can really be a bad guy. Despite it only being 3 episodes long, the 5th phase demonstrates the worst aspects of Patrick's character. His selfish side comes out, and Negan shows what he truly becomes when he gains too much power. In Rule of Dumb and Driven to Tears, Patrick is the lead and the main antagonist of the entire episode. This makes him much harder to watch during the 2-episode phase, but his redeeming qualities are much better and can still make him a somewhat good character. This was more of a speed bump, but it was important in showing what Patrick can become if he gets too much power over others. Phase 6 is extremely short, but it's a return to normality as Patrick goes back to acting like SpongeBob. The main thing to remember is that Patrick is not as smart as SpongeBob. There was no real character development at all. Phase 7 shows that he's now embracing his stupid side even more, and he continues to show that he honestly is just an idiot. The main thing is that he goes through that routine every day, meaning he hasn't become this stupid, he was always this stupid. We just never saw it. So for the interface analysis, at this point, Patrick has remained a relatively likable character to the average person. Sure, he has his selfish moments, but his friendship with SpongeBob is getting along pretty well. He has his funny moments which make up for it. So at this point, Patrick is not necessarily a bad character in the show. Nothing bad has actually happened. His character has not been destroyed. Well, let's get to phase 8. By the way, phase 8 is only 16 episodes. I know, these are very short. Some of his more stupider moments are in episodes like Fungus Among Us, where he bursts SpongeBob's bubble when SpongeBob is infected. He also seen being stupid in Crabs a la Mode when he's seen licking a wall. That's great, Patrick. Since this phase was very short, there's really nothing else to show for Patrick. He literally did nothing. No supportive, smart, or selfish moments to account for in this phase. Phase 9. Goo Goo Gas. Now this isn't actually a phase. I lied. I just really wanted to mention this is one of the first times where we see Patrick with that one stupid, antagonizing, idiotic baby tooth. That thing is the bane of my existence. We all know that that one tooth is a signifier of Patrick's stupidity. The only thing to take away from this phase is that from here on out, Patrick's IQ will drop drastically, and we'll see his more negative characteristics come out. Phase 10, he's smart, but he's also stupid. You already know what this is going to look like, so let's continue. By the way, only 17 episodes long. Some of his more stupider moments are in episodes like Picture Day, where he deliberately messes up SpongeBob before his picture day at Mrs. Puff's boating school. Also in Pat No Pay, he eats soap and explodes the Krusty Krab. That was a 4-minute episode, by the way. Some of his more supportive moments are in Black and Sponge, where he's ready to avenge SpongeBob's attacker after SpongeBob appears with a black eye, which I have to add was a pretty cool thing of Patrick to do. Some of his more selfish moments are in Spongehenge. While it's not exactly selfish, he refuses to help SpongeBob with his jellyfish problem. Then again, everyone rejected SpongeBob and kicked him out of town, so that says more about the people of Bikini Bottom and less about Patrick, but he was still a jerk. Oh, also, there are no smart moments in this. Whoopee. Patrick is becoming stupider as the day goes on. This is a bit of a turning point because Patrick has no smart moments, not even one. It shows they're just starting to use Patrick to be the butt of the jokes, meaning that he's only gonna get stupider. The main character development is that Patrick is finally becoming stupid like we know him in seasons 13 and 14. It was also hard to find any selfish moments, which is a good thing, so maybe his character is improving. Sure, he's getting stupider, but at least he's being nicer. Phase 11, Spongicus. Once again, this really isn't a phase, but just one episode. But I really wanted to mention one thing about Patrick in this episode, which truly shows that he has just 0 IQ points remaining. In this episode, Plankton creates a coliseum to convince customers to come to the Chum Coliseum instead of the Krusty Krab. Part of the experience is to watch live battles between fish and animal fish. In the first event, Patrick will be fighting a sea lion. Looking at Patrick's expression at the start, it's clear that he was on board with the idea before seeing the lion. He knows what he's getting into, so what sensible person would actively put themselves in danger, especially against a lion? Before this, Patrick would do stupid things, but nothing homicidal. Or suicidal in this case. But now he's oblivious to danger and he's willing to fight a lion for some food. It just further shows that he's stupid no matter his occasional smart moments. He's just becoming stupider by the day. Phase 12 and 13, seasons 9 through 10. I really don't have anything to say besides that he's stupid. It's nothing you haven't heard before. He doesn't get any better in season 9 as possibly expected by some. Also, by this point, the show has changed its type of comedy, and for Patrick, that really just means that he'll just do more random and stupid things for the sake of laughs. Because of this, there's no growth in Patrick's character for almost 2 whole seasons. Phase 14, Ink Lemonade. I'm sure a lot of you guys have not heard of the episode Ink Lemonade, but it was the episode I watched when I kind of came back to SpongeBob after it kind of went south. And geez, it's been crowned as the worst episode of all of SpongeBob. In this episode, we'll be talking a bit about Patrick's stupidity, but we see a ton of his selfish side. As mentioned, Ink Lemonade has been crowned as one of the worst episodes of SpongeBob history, and it's all thanks to Patrick. The episode can be simply summed up as Patrick wants to sell lemonade and realizes that Squidward's ink tastes good. I don't even know what to say. I quit. And so, because it tastes so good, he sells it and constantly scares Squidward to get more ink out of him. It gets to the point where Squidward is mentally and physically scarred for the rest of his life. He does this to make a quick buck, showing that he can be extremely selfish. Well, we come to the final phase, and there's only one thing I'm gonna say. Remember in season 1 when Patrick was this interesting, helpful, and funny guy who was just a side character to SpongeBob? Yeah, well, the idea is remade and promptly killed with the 2 episodes Pat the Dog and Pat the Horse. These are pretty much the death of Patrick as a character. Both episodes, if you couldn't already guess, pretty much show Patrick wanting to either be a dog or a horse respectively. This is a fully grown adult, by the way, just saying. Remember when he used to have a brain? But honestly, like, you took a character and you completely killed it off with these brain dead moments. What added charm to Patrick's humor was that it was temporary, and he wasn't outright brain dead. He still functioned like a normal person who just wasn't as smart as the average Joe. That's it. And they completely killed that idea off. So when did Patrick lose his charm? As I've mentioned on countless occasions, Patrick was at his absolute peak during seasons 1 to 3, which most people agree were the best times of the show. He's fine during seasons 4 to 7, but most people even stopped watching the show after this because honestly, the show kinda got bad. So when did he change for the worse? A lot of people argue that it's after season 3, when the whole show just kind of fell off and became bad. But if you want my honest opinion, I would say that it's in the episode Rise and Shine. It went from Patrick as this normal, maybe stupider guy to being the complete idiot that we know him to be. He becomes a complete idiot who's just stupid for the funny. His character loses its depth and other good qualities like his wisdom, as well as his occasional time where he was smart. This marked the moment when Patrick would strictly be stupid for the laughs and lose his charm that made him likable in the first place.